Tonight, you will probably wake up at least once, maybe twice. You'll lie there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, wondering why your body can't just let you sleep through the night. You'll check your phone, you'll shift positions, and somewhere in the back of your mind, you'll assume something is wrong with you. But the real answer is far stranger than a sleep disorder. What if waking up in the middle of the night isn't a malfunction? What if it's the most ancient, perfectly designed survival system your ancestors ever developed? And you're still running it, every single night, thousands of years after it stopped being necessary? Your relationship with sleep is not what you think it is. It never was. Go back. Not a few hundred years, not even a few thousand. Go back roughly 300,000 years to the moment when your species first appeared. The world is dark in a way you have never experienced. There are no streetlights, no phones, no locked doors, just you, your group, a fire that may or may not still be burning, and everything outside the light that wants to eat you. In that world, sleep is the most dangerous thing a human being can do. Every hour you spend unconscious is an hour your guard is down. Your muscles are relaxed. Your senses are dulled. You cannot run. You cannot fight. You are, for all practical purposes, prey. So what did your ancestors do? They solved the problem the only way evolution ever solves anything. Messily, imperfectly, but effectively. They stopped sleeping the same way at the same time. Anthropologist Jerome Siegel spent years studying 3 of the last remaining hunter-gatherer societies on Earth: the Hadza of Tanzania, the San of Namibia, and the Tsimane of Bolivia. These groups have had almost no contact with modern technology. They do not own alarm clocks. They have never read a sleep hygiene article. And yet, when Siegel attached activity monitors to members of these communities and tracked their sleep patterns over hundreds of nights, he found something that overturned almost everything sleep science thought it knew. These groups did not sleep in one long 8-hour block. They did not go to bed when it got dark and wake with the sun. Instead, they fell asleep on average 2 to 3 hours after sunset. They slept in a compressed window of around 6 to 7 hours. And here is the part that changes everything, and almost none of them slept at exactly the same time. Within any given group, there was almost always someone awake. Not because they were anxious, not because they had insomnia, but because the group across all its members had staggered sleep schedules. Someone was always on. Someone was always watching. Siegel called this the sentinel hypothesis, and it is one of the most quietly revolutionary ideas in the science of human evolution. Your broken sleep is not broken. It is ancient group security software still running in your body. Your ancestors survived because at least one person in the group was always awake, and your body, 300,000 years later, still doesn't fully trust that the job is being done. Now here is where it gets even stranger, because it was not always this way. For most of the animal kingdom, sleep is simple. You get tired, you sleep, you wake up, you repeat. Most mammals are either monophasic, one long sleep period, or polyphasic, many short ones scattered throughout the day and night. Your closest living relatives, chimpanzees and bonobos, sleep in long, relatively uninterrupted stretches. So do gorillas. So do most primates. The shift happened somewhere in the transition from tree sleeping to ground sleeping. For millions of years, your pre-human ancestors slept in trees, elevated, protected, harder to reach. The price of the ground was vulnerability, and the price of vulnerability was wakefulness. Researcher David Sampson at the University of Toronto has argued that this shift to ground sleeping did something remarkable to the architecture of human sleep itself. When you look at sleep in terms of stages, the light stages, the deep slow wave stages, the REM stage where you dream, human sleep is unique among primates. We spend a smaller proportion of total sleep time in REM, but that REM is packed more densely into our sleep cycle. We get more out of it per minute. Sampson believes this compression happened because your ancestors needed to spend less total time unconscious on the vulnerable ground. The brain adapted. It became more efficient. It got better at doing in 6 hours what other primates needed 9 or 10 hours to accomplish. The result is you, a species that runs on less sleep than almost any other primate alive, and whose sleep is architecturally optimized for a dangerous world you no longer live in. But there is a second piece to this puzzle that most people have never heard of, and it is somehow even stranger. For most of human history, not prehistory, but history, people did not sleep in one block at all. They slept in two. The historian A. Roger Ekirch spent 16 years researching sleep references in historical documents, diaries, court records, medical texts, literature. He combed through hundreds of years of written human experience. What he found, published in his landmark 2001 paper and later in his book at day's close, Night in Times Past, was that the standard sleep pattern for humans in pre-industrial Europe and beyond was not a single sleep. It was a first sleep and a second sleep. People went to bed around 9 or 10 at night. They slept for 3 to 4 hours. Then they woke up. This waking period lasted anywhere from 1 to 2 hours. People used it. They prayed. They talked to their partners. They wrote in journals. They had sex. In some communities, neighbors would even visit each other during this window. It was treated not as insomnia, but as a normal, expected part of the night. Then they returned to sleep for a second block of 3 to 4 hours, rising around dawn. This was not a cultural quirk of one society. Ekirch found references to first sleep and second sleep, and sometimes called first sleep and morning sleep, or dead sleep and second sleep, across medieval Europe, in colonial America, in ancient Rome, in West African oral traditions, in the Middle East. The two-sleep pattern appears to have been the default human experience for thousands and thousands of years. It vanished almost completely in the 19th century. And the reason it vanished tells you almost everything about how modern life has hijacked your biology. When gaslighting arrived in cities, first in the streets, then in homes, the night changed. For the first time in human history, the dark became optional. People could stay up later. Social life extended into hours that had previously been reserved for that quiet waking window between sleeps. The two-sleep pattern began to compress. The middle of the night waking period got squeezed out, and within a few generations, people forgot it had ever existed. By the time electric light spread across the world in the early 20th century, the consolidation was complete. The single 8-hour block became not just the norm, but the medical standard. And the millions of people who still woke in the night, who lay in that hour of quiet, darkness their ancestors had always used, now had a name for it: insomnia. Psychiatrist Thomas Weir ran a landmark experiment at the National Institute of Mental Health in the 1990s that brought this history back into sharp focus. He took a group of healthy volunteers and placed them in conditions of enforced darkness for 14 hours a night, mimicking the natural light conditions of the pre-industrial world. Within weeks, something happened that none of the participants expected. They stopped sleeping in one block. They began waking in the night, staying conscious for an hour or two in a state of calm, almost meditative wakefulness, and then returning to sleep. Weir measured their hormone levels during this waking period. What he found was elevated prolactin, a hormone associated with the calm, altered state that nursing mothers experience. The participants described the waking period not as frustrating or anxious, but as deeply peaceful, quiet, still. This, Weir concluded, may have been the natural human experience of the night for most of our existence. Not a broken sleep, not insomnia, a kind of second consciousness, a natural waking pause built into the human night. Your body is not confused. Your body is not malfunctioning. Your body is doing exactly what 300,000 years of evolution designed it to do in a world that no longer looks anything like the one it was designed for. So what do you do with this? Not very much, practically speaking. You probably cannot change your work schedule around a two-sleep pattern. You almost certainly cannot turn off every light in your home at sunset. The modern world is not going to rearrange itself around your Paleolithic sleep architecture. But there is something quietly important in simply knowing this. When you wake at 2 in the morning and your mind starts its familiar spiral, the anxiety, the self-diagnosis, the scrolling, you are fighting against your biology. You are treating as a problem something your ancestors would have recognized as an invitation to lie still, to let your mind move gently through the dark, to exist for a moment in the part of human experience that electric light has almost entirely erased. Your ancestors woke in the night. They lay in the dark beside the people they trusted most. And somewhere in that quiet hour, with the fire low and the world just outside the edge of light, they were more themselves than at almost any other moment of the day. Tonight, when you wake up at 2 in the morning, you are not broken. You are ancient. And for once, that ancient part of you might be exactly right.